Join us, Jack Brewer, former NFL player and national spokesperson for the National Association of Police Athletic Leagues. Jack, it's always great to see you, and thank you for joining the program. There was a readiness for what would come next and what the street would see as justice, maybe even separate from what Breonna Taylor's family would see. And I know that you work so closely with police officers. What are your initial reactions right now?
First off, I mean, obviously sadness. And whenever you see a country divided over a murder like this, I mean, it really is sad. And I think, you know, just as we're on the air trying to figure out exactly the terminology and what it means and the definitions, I mean, this is just going to add to the confusion, because I think a lot of people across America on both sides don't really truly understand what this sentence or these charges mean. And so I think we need to bring some clarity to this situation. I think it is a sad situation, but, you know, at the same time, you know, folks need to take this as an example of the reason why we have our legal system. The reason why we need to wait until these things are presented in front of a court and in front of a jury, and stop just lashing out, letting our emotions lead us. You know, I think that does no good for anyone. It doesn't do any good for the memory of Breonna Taylor, for her family, for the healing of this nation. And I just hope that folks can take a step back tonight. And, you know, we don't need any more violence. We need a call for unity. We need some explanation, and I think that's what they're trying to do. But let's let the legal process work itself out.
Yeah, you know, we are awaiting the Kentucky Attorney General to come up, and John Yoo, former Assistant U.S. Attorney General, Deputy Attorney General, had just been joining me, and I want to make sure that it's very clear what the charges are in this case. They are criminal, they are felony D. Murder is not among them. He thought he had heard, John Yoo, that on the Zoom coming from the judge inside that courtroom. That is not the case. They are 3 counts of wanton endangerment for an ex-detective, Brett Hankinson. And so those are the charges. And Jack, as you are talking about right now, one thing that John Yoo was saying is we're not certain if this is all that will come. There are 2 other officers involved in this being looked at. Will charges come? We don't know. The grand jury could conduct more of that. But as we go forth, you're saying we must, and you're so right, wait for the facts. Some of those facts hopefully will come with more clarity when the Kentucky AG gets set to speak after the grand jury indicted that officer, Hankinson. Jack, you know, it has been a long 6-7 months. It has. The death of Breonna Taylor, the death of George Floyd, it has really been one of those times where it seems like things are building. What does it take, do you think, in your estimation, to get us to the point where we can do those things you're talking about, and that is back away, look at the facts, and have cohesive and open conversation with one another?
We have to ask ourselves, where are we finding our truth as a nation? You know, where is our morality set? Is it set from spirituality? Is it set from the Word of God? Or are we just leading off of emotion? We know that some of these things are injustices, and we know that we need to stand against them. But we can't highlight 1 or 2 or 5 instances across our nation and ignore so many of the other injustices that are happening in our land. We can't highlight one situation over another. And what I mean by that is, I mean, we have people getting killed by the hundreds every week throughout our nation and shot. You know, you have murders and you have shootings going through our inner cities. All of that is hate. All of that is violence. And it shouldn't matter just because a police officer pulls the trigger or a regular citizen pulls the trigger. We should all be here standing up to unite around protecting life. In bringing justice and liberty and morality back to our nation, but to use these type of situations to divide us. by going out, yelling and screaming, saying Black Lives Matters, Blue Lives Matters, and just creating all this division is not helping our nation. And so until we can all take a step back and really truly see each other as one blood, as the Bible teaches us, and really truly look at each other as brothers and sisters and not just talk about it, but mean it, then we'll start to value every situation. And I don't think there's any police officer out there, I don't think there's any American out there that doesn't want true answers to this, right? You even saw Senator Rand Paul, who stood up. He was the one who stood up to stop these no-knock warrants. And even he was getting harassed in the streets after leaving the White House. And so these are just examples that sometimes we're fighting against people that already agree with us. And that is just not the American way. America was built on unity around our flag, around our nation, and under God.
That is such an important point that you make. That, you know, that we are already talking about things that we should agree on. And, you know, I want to hit something that you said there, because I've been saying it since the death of little 8-year-old Sequoia Turner down in Atlanta, who died at that Wendy's. You know, it was several nights after Rayshard Brooks had been killed there. Her mom was trying to drive around a poorly lit and some signage by protesters of where you can and can't drive there if you're protesting. And someone fired, and that child ended up dead. And, you know, the question then becomes, why does that not get the kind of coverage that death by a person who happens not to be Black, who is a police officer, gets? And, you know, as two people of color on the screen, I think that's an honest question to ask. Because in addition to making the National Guard ready, to preparing them in Kentucky for whatever the, you know, the adjudication of this case ahead will look like, what those charges will look like today, they were readying forces on the ground in Chicago in case there was some sort of reaction there. Well, my goodness, there have been weekend after weekend after weekend after weekend after weekend of shootings and deaths there before Breonna Taylor and George Floyd. I mean, we have been looking at a situation of Black on Black crime, oh my gosh, for so many years. And that matters, or it doesn't? I mean, is it a choice? Does it only matter with someone who doesn't resemble you that ends in murder? Or doesn't all of it count?
Unity is not mutually exclusive between a Black shooter or a white shooter. Unity means that we want all people to be unified. Love does not mean you love one color or the other color, or you look at something if it's committed by one race or one segment of the population. Love is love, and unity is unity. And I think as a nation, you make a great point. We all need to hold ourselves more accountable. Hold ourselves more accountable to seeing things in fairness and not for a political debate, not to pick sides. And really, the promotion of victimhood is really what you're seeing right now. We can't promote only things that fit a victim narrative. We have to promote things that also call for accountability, also call for discipline, right? I do not mind going to a group of Black men that have their pants hanging down or that are on the block selling dope or carrying guns, shooting at each other. As a Black man, I don't have a problem with telling them to pull their pants up and that they need to act right, because we need accountability and discipline. That's what real leadership does. And just like the police officers, if you're a police officer right now, you should tell any other police officer that's a bad apple or that are doing things to bring a bad name to so many of the great cops. The cops should hold them accountable for it. We all have to do our part as Americans to hold each other accountable, and we have to stop being so soft that we want to tell everybody what they want to hear. We have to stop appeasing, and we have to start leading.
Jack Brewer, thank you very much for being on the program today as we react to the Kentucky situation where Breonna Taylor's case now is moving forward. And one of the 3 police officers who were being looked at, an ex-detective Hankinson, has been charged with 3 felony level charges of wanton endangerment.